And if you ever have questions, you can definitely like raise your hand or say in the chat. And I think Reedy will keep an eye on that. So that way, if you do have something, she'll just make sure that your question gets answered. Basically, today is an orientation day, so it's relatively light on content. So just a quick agenda of what we're going to go over. We're kind of doing a little bit of introductions right now. Then we're going to talk about community agreements, which are just really basic ground rules. Then we're going to explain the program structure, so describing the different calls on the program calendar and also kind of the assignment for this week. And then we're also going to do a little brief intro about culture itself and what it means, just so we have some shared language to go off of. And that was what we were talking about just a second ago. So definitely feel free to keep sharing those if you haven't gotten around to it yet. So now we're just going to go over some really basic community agreements that I'm sure you all know already, but just to reiterate to make sure everyone's on the same foot. This is a place of community, inclusion, and appreciation for diversity. So that means no hate in any way towards any aspect of a human being's identity. We also encourage you to take space and give space, which means if you've been talking a lot, maybe consider giving someone else some time to share their thoughts, as well as if you haven't shared for a while, considering stepping up and sharing a bit. In that same vein, listen constantly and generously, to being aware that basically not no one knows everything, but together we know a lot. So it's really important that we all listen equally and generously to each other. And then just like engagement reminders, again, you probably all know these. We try to keep to like one person, one mic, but we also want like nice hearty discussions to join on camera if you can, and then definitely feeling free to always share questions and affirmations through the Zoom reactions in the chat or unmuting yourself or raising your hand to speak. Oh yeah, so I hope you all are kind of excited to get started today, because I personally am. But yeah, so again, this is not like the most exciting because we just need to explain everything that's going on. But first, I'm gonna share with you guys the master calendar, um, with the link of which I think I can like put in the chat right now. But basically, this master calendar is showing all the things that we have going on throughout the course of the program. And as you can see, there's honestly not a ton of synchronous stuff that everybody has to experience. So you can see each week is separated by a global issue, like a global issue being that week's main topic. And those main topics are going to be the subject of these workshop calls, where we provide some background on that topic. And then throughout the week, you arrange on your own time your culture partner calls. So with those assignments that were shared yesterday, you and your partner basically arrange a call on your own time to discuss that issue. The discussion guide is also all done and everything. And you can, if you would like, also arrange a culture coffee chat by joining the Slack channel. I think an announcement was there yesterday. Yeah, so I think I just put the link in the chat, and you can check it out. And if you have any issues with that, you delete that. Sorry. Yeah, so you can see from there. Yeah, just at a glance everything that's going on. You can also see here we have like weekly like soft deadlines for completion forms, and the completion forms are basically for these weekly projects we'll have available for everyone, where you create a project, whether that's a presentation or a one-pager or an artsy thing or any other kind of presentation like format that you'd like about that week's project. That week's topic and kind of the status in your partner's country or culture. So for example, week one is orientation, but our topic is just really broad culture, just getting a feel for different aspects of that culture, maybe how it's different or similar to your own. So if my partner was like Reedy, for example, Reedy is from India, so I would probably make my I personally enjoy making presentations, so I'd probably make a presentation about Indian culture. So yeah, so that's just like a really brief overview of that. And there's some more detailed slides, so I'll share those as well. Yeah, and then just now I also shared in the chat this master doc, which is going to be pretty helpful. It has just all the links that you'll need throughout the program. So there's like the master calendar, and then there's the assignments for your culture partners, and then there's also the Zoom link and a time zone converter. Remember, these are 8 a.m. Pacific time, which is like a whole slew of different times for everyone. Then there's the weekly completion form. So to reiterate, the weekly projects can be submitted individually each week, or they can be submitted all together at once. Like they could technically be submitted up to the last day of the program. But if you want them to be shared in the next meeting or on our social media as an example of like strong student work, they would need to be shared by the end of the week that they're like due with a soft deadline. And then lastly, there's like a discussion guide for the culture partner chat calls, which we're gonna go over right now. But yeah, so basically there are 3 call components to this program. There are these weekly workshop calls right now, which everyone needs to attend or watch the recordings of. And then there's your culture partner call, which again everyone needs to do, and basically it's just a meeting you arrange on your own time with your culture partner. And then optional, you can also do the culture coffee chat, where you get matched with a peer randomly who also wants to do a culture coffee chat, and then you guys just get to meet each other and have a friendly conversation. So yeah, so those are the 3 main components. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to explain each one in a little more depth right now, and I'll also share these slides with you so you have them for reference. But basically, going over the partner calls. So each week, you and your partner arrange a call on your own time and discuss your different cultural perspectives on that week's topic. And then based on your conversation and individual research, you make a project explaining the status of or aspects of the week's topic in your partner country. So as you see on like the master calendar, the weekly topics are in order: orientation, which is culture, and then mental health, and then LGBTQ plus rights, and then education. So each week you would make that project about that different topic in your partner's country. And with projects, again, they're due at the end of the week if you want to present your project at the next workshop or have it featured on our social media, but they can be submitted up to the last day of the program to go towards your certificate of completion, because you need to submit at least one of those projects. Out of those 4 projects, you need to submit at least one to receive a little like certificate of completion. And probably we're going to do some like most engaged student awards and things like that. So to be eligible for those, you'll need to make sure to submit at least one of those. And then for project ideas, you can make like a slideshow, like Google Slides or a PowerPoint. You can make a 1-pager, either digitally or by hand. You could do drawing or artwork, a poster, an essay if you want, really just any other format you'd like. So I think I'm gonna pause there and check if anyone has a question that I should answer right now. Okay, I think not. Yay, hopefully I'm explaining things decently, but you're always welcome to ask for more clarification. Yeah, so this is just some more details about what you would do during the partner calls. So during it, there's 2 main components. One is just like friendship building things, so like how you've been doing, the shows you've been watching, what your family is like, and things like that. And the second part would be building cultural understanding. So that's where you would discuss the different cultural perspectives you have on the week's topic, and then details about that topic in your country that you may want to include in your project for that So yeah, so I guess just wanted to check in with everyone. Who you can just give like a thumbs up for like a Zoom or a real one. Like, do you all know who your culture partner is? Okay, awesome. It looks like a lot of people do. And then if you have trouble doing that, just like reach out to Reedy or me. Um, okay, awesome. And then yeah, and then working to connect with them when you have an opportunity. In our Slack, you can like search them up and then DM them. I think is going to be the easiest way, but they also have emails listed on that spreadsheet if you want. Yeah. So, okay, next we're going to talk about the culture coffee chats. Um, and then, yeah, so these are optional, but they're still a really great way to meet different people from different backgrounds from yourself. And this is organized by the Donut Bot in Slack, and it pairs those who join the hashtag Culture Coffee Chats channel randomly for a cross-cultural conversation. And those coffee chat partner assignments occur weekly, and they restart every Monday at 10 a.m. Korean time, which I'm not sure what time that is abroad, but yeah, so basically around Monday. Um, so you can decide each week if you want to participate in a culture coffee chat that week or not. If you want to participate in it and be matched, then you stay in that channel or join that channel. If you don't, then you leave that channel. You can always come back later. And then this is really just a relaxed call where you can build intercultural friendship. But if you're comfortable, it's always great to discuss the week's global issue topic as well, just to get another perspective on that, in addition to the one for partner goals. And now I'm just gonna share with you guys the discussion guide. The culture coffee chat is one-on-one. Yeah, and then this is the discussion guide document, so it just has kind of the question prompts that you would potentially go over in um, your calls, either with your partner or with your culture coffee chat. So like these starter, like friendship building ones, especially for your culture coffee chats, are recommended. They just help you get to know each other as friends. And then the weekly topic questions are all outlined by like what issue it is in each week. And you definitely don't have to ask all these questions. They're just provided as ideas, and we want the conversation to flow naturally. So hopefully they'll just be a good starting point, and your conversation can kind of sustain itself from there. Yeah, so that's that. Did I do one for these workshops? I did not. That's kind of funny. But basically, these workshops are also the only like required call for all people across the group, and also if you can't attend at any point, that's okay because we're recording these, so you just need to watch the recording when you have a chance. But yeah, so today we're going to go over culture, basically develop some shared vocabulary and ways of thinking about culture in the couple of minutes we have, like now that we've gone over all the logistics stuff. But I think I should ask first if anyone has any questions about kind of all that stuff we went over, like the structure of the program and things like that. I'm gonna post, it's gonna take like a little bit after the meeting, but I'll like post them to YouTube, Savannah. And then I'll share like the link. Yeah, I was planning to share these links like right after this meeting, so I will do that. Or Reedy will. But yeah, so basically, this is like this week's assignment, which is kind of more like detailed than the other weeks. For the other weeks, we're just gonna do like a slide. I'm sorry, I'm losing my word. Like a slide that has different aspects that you can think about presenting about that culture or that topic. But this week, I think this explains it a little better than I will out loud. But basically, you have the option to present about your partner's culture however you would like. Did I already share this in the chat? Okay, I think I did. And it basically, you can create a presentation, you can make a copy of this slide, or you can make your own slide, or you can do something different like a one-pager or an art project. And you can just think about different topics of different aspects of culture in that country. So whether we're going to talk more about some of these in depth, but like language or geography, or like government or religion or values and history, food. A lot of these are pretty important, just like basic components of culture that we'll share, that we encourage you to share out. But you definitely don't have to cover all of these. You can kind of pick and choose. You could even cover just one of these aspects and go more in depth on that, and how that topic is like in your partner culture. And then there's a bunch of sources you can use to learn about other cultures. And then these are just different, we have a slide for each of those topics, each of the main topics, or at least the ones that we generally consider among the most important. And then just some prompt questions that you can address if you were to make a slide about it. Yeah, it's like pretty in-depth, so definitely take time to look through it on your own. And those would be due, wait. Let's see. Those would be due 11:59 p.m. Pacific time on Saturdays. So yeah. And that, like, this Saturday's when this one's would be due. Yeah. Okay. I think we have like a little bit of time, so I'm gonna try to go over some kind of more like, oh my god, sorry, more like fun things about culture itself that we can talk about. Yeah, I know I've been talking for a while, sorry about that. But definitely I would love for all of you to share if you would like, but this is kind of just a starter off for discussion. You kind of already put this in the chat, like what culture means to you, but I guess more from an academic standpoint, what is culture in all of your guys' minds? And you can also like raise your hand to, actually I think we technically already answered this, so we'll just go with that. But if people are okay with it, I'll probably like read aloud some people's answers. So one was like a particular set of beliefs and practices that is followed by people who are historically from one region or share common roots, which is really good and detailed. Culture being the customs that a group of people hold. Culture being a set of beliefs that are part of our identity. Culture being the customs, arts, and social institutions and achievements of a particular nation or people. Yeah, and then there's like a whole bunch of other like really, actually I'll shoot all of them. And then culture is an identity that describes a group of people through the different aspects like language, beliefs, and arts. Culture is a set of beliefs and rules that a group of people follow in a particular zone. And culture is something that distinguishes all communities from each other. It's something that generally makes every group unique and even singular people. It's a very fascinating thing for me, something I hold very dear to my heart, which I do too. But those are all really wonderful responses, and of course if you want to continue adding, we'd love for you to do so. But basically there were a lot of common threads we saw there. There's kind of common origin, so usually that meant like geographically or historically being from kind of the similar zone. Like beliefs, customs and traditions, things that are shared through a common heritage. As well as rules is a really important one that sometimes people forget, but kind of social norms, social institutions, and these kind of shared beliefs, these non-physical beliefs that people have. So yeah, okay, this is super out of order, but basically this is just showing some different aspects of culture. And culture in its most simple way to think about it is kind of a learned way of life that is shared by a group of people. And most of the time when we think about culture, we think of it in context of ethnicity, nationality, heritage, about where like a person is from kind of geographically and culturally. But it can really be broadly applied to any group of people that has a learned and shared way of life. And that's the key word here too, is learned, because culture is something that individuals learn by virtue of growing up in the environment that they do. It's not something that, a baby is just born with this culture and all its practices ingrained within them. It's something they learn from their upbringing, which is pretty cool. And then these are just some different aspects of culture we can consider. So symbols, that includes like language, so alphabets, emojis, hugs, like nonverbal communication. The way we communicate nonverbally is really big. And that also is the thing that distinguishes culture. And it's kind of like, for example, in South Korea, a lot of people bow when they greet each other or say thank you. In the US, a lot of times people are bigger on hugs and things like that. Another aspect of culture you can consider is beliefs and expectations. So these are more non-material, so things like hand washing, which is fairly universal at this point, or wearing a mask during COVID-19. Those are all beliefs or expectations, kind of part of a global culture we set around hygiene being a shared value, around not spreading disease being a shared value in pretty much every culture around the world. Things like praying and going to church, or another religious institution, or following a religion, those all fall under beliefs and expectations. Also family roles and expectations for like different genders, for different socioeconomic statuses, what people in the family are expected to do, those all fall under beliefs and expectations. And physical includes technologies like cars, computers, phones, but also traditionally things like the tools that a culture or society would use to sustain themselves, especially like looking back, like pots and the old arrows and things like that. But especially now, tech is kind of modern day, the technology that defines a culture, the brands that define a culture. You can also think about buildings and the different architectural styles that different regions have, whether that's because of the environment there or cultural or religious reasons. Buildings look the way they look for a certain way, for a certain reason, and it's pretty cool to think about. Even in like the U.S., when I went to San Francisco a couple of days ago, it was really interesting to see the stucco buildings and like the flat roofs, which are because it's like hotter there, compared to like the more slanted roofs and like wooden boards and ceiling and roofs that I'm used to in Oregon. So even within the same country, even though within like the kind of same culture of like America, there's a lot of diversity in how these different aspects of culture manifest. The last one that's pretty obvious too is like art. Art is a huge way that cultures manifest kind of all these other aspects of themselves for presentation to like the outside world. But yeah, these are all just like some really basic ideas of some things that fall into these categories. But yeah, if anyone has like ideas they would want to add, please do because we would love to hear them. But hopefully that's like a little bit of a new way of thinking about culture for some of you. Yeah, we're not gonna go super in depth, I don't think, into all the slides because we'll try to keep it like 30 to 45 minutes. But yeah, so culture, again, is like kind of a community you identify with. It's a learned way of life. So even though most of the times you think about cultures like Chinese culture, American culture, like African American culture, things like that, technically other examples are valid as well, like internet culture or youth culture or like music or TV fandoms like K-pop fandoms and Harry Potter fandoms and TikTok fandoms, and then that's like obviously anime. But basically the thing that distinguishes all these communities is that they have kind of a certain set of rules and lingo that might feel unfamiliar to someone outside of it. So for example, in K-pop, or actually I feel like people know Harry Potter a little better when people talk about the Harry Potter houses. If someone had never heard of Harry Potter and I said I'm a Ravenclaw, they probably wouldn't know what you were talking about. So that kind of language is a shared basic understanding that people within that community have, and therefore it's in itself a type of culture as well, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, if people want to share, please do, because we always like sharing and we don't like it when I talk for a long time. But yeah. Yeah, it's also okay if not, but yeah, so now we're gonna just kind of keep talking about culture. So I think at least is really interesting. But yeah, so even though we just talked about how like anime fandoms are a type of culture, the type of culture that we'll be discussing throughout this program is more in terms of nationality, heritage, and ethnicity. If you took AP Human Geography and you're a US student, those are probably kind of familiar, but basically, heritage is the values and traditions that are handed down to you by your family. And the nationality is like the country you call home, usually the country you have legal citizenship in. And then ethnicity is like a group of people with a common cultural heritage. And all these questions kind of revolve around the pretty difficult questions of like where are you from and what does home mean to you. Um, and it's really not a simple question for a lot of people. Um, when asked where are you from, where are you really from, and things like that. But yeah, that kind of gets to the root of what culture means, of kind of the differences between the country you might be born in, the values you're raised in, the cultures of your family, and it's really just so many different aspects that come together to form the unique cultural identity that you call your own. Um, so yeah, I think, is there more? Okay, there's more. We're not gonna go over these all, but these are just some different aspects of culture that you can consider. Um, yeah, oh, I guess for explanation, this is from Tibet. This is like a little boy sticking his tongue out, which is one way that people greet each other in Tibet, which is kind of a relatively unique cultural thing there, but that, like we said, communication is a big way that different cultures differentiate themselves. Yeah, and then there's like, we're not gonna watch this video, but we're gonna like put the link in the chat, so if you want to watch it, you can. I think this is near the end, but basically, just some more shared language we can think about. Is immaterial culture versus material culture. So, a lot of the times, actually, a lot of you already kind of identified that it's ideas and like non-physical concepts that really bring together a culture. But we also sometimes call it like immaterial culture, being the non-physical ideas that are associated with the culture, and then material culture being the physical objects associated with that culture. There's this iceberg concept of culture where the majority of culture is actually out of awareness. You can see some of those descriptions below the water, because a lot of the times cultures are presented through their media, through their games, their cooking, um, things like that. Whereas a lot of other things like all these things like related to class, to gender, to modesty, to beauty, those are all really critical pieces of common understanding and context that people within that culture would have, but that to an outsider might feel unfamiliar because they don't share the same cultural context. And then you can also learn more. I am still learning more about this, but like this concept of high context and low context cultures, where some cultures have a greater amount of like shared understanding, um, while others have lower amounts. So the similarity in backgrounds allow some people to kind of communicate in different ways based on the level of context they come into the conversation having. But yeah, um, if you guys want, you can like identify elements of your life and cultures and material and share them in the chat, and which one you might think is a little more meaningful to you and which one might be more meaningful or prominent to outsiders to your culture. But yeah. Okay, Savannah, for when you work with the groups we're assigned to, you basically like Slack each other, you like DM each other on Slack, and then you guys create your own meeting time through like the platform you guys want the most. Um, that makes sense. Yeah. Oh, Adrija, am I pronouncing your name right?
Yeah, right. I had two quick questions.
Mm-hmm.
One is that will you be sharing this presentation with us after the meeting?
Yeah.
And the second one is my partner is not here today. So what if we face problems getting in touch with our partner? What should we do?
Yeah, I think if by like the end of the day, you've sent them also some people might just not be able to come like today specifically, but if by the end of I guess by the end of the day is a different time for everyone, but if by the end of the day they haven't okay, I guess within if after 24 hours after you send like your first kind of outreach message, if they haven't like responded or read it, then I think reach out to Reedy or me so that we can add you to a group or kind of like trade partners to make sure that you have a partner who is fully participating.
Where should we reach out? On the mail from the Word with Us, which we got.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I mean, where should we reach out? Is there a particular number or on Slack somebody we should DM?
Did you get the spreadsheet with all the culture partners?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So next to your name, there should be the name of your partner. So you can look up their name in the Slack. I can actually demonstrate. Would that be helpful if I demonstrated that right now? Like how to do.
I understood about the partner, but if our partner is not responding, who should we reach out to?
Oh, me, Caroline, or sorry, it says my name backwards. Me, Caroline, or Reedy.
On Slack?
Yeah. Our names will.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, if you just type our names in there, it shows up. Yeah. Okay, that's actually all we had. So, if anyone had,
Kevin, I'm saying Shawana wanted you to just show her how to work on Slack for a bit, like how to search up for a name and DM them. Can you do it once?
yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, but yeah. So, oh, it's not sharing it anymore. Um, yeah. If anyone else had questions, please like ask them because now is our time. Or if it's about like the program structure or logistics or like the content we went over and things about culture, please do. And then we're gonna just share all the other links in the Slack. And everything's gonna be on the master docs. Really, if you have the master doc, it should be fine. Um. Oh, whoops! I never even sent the Zoom link. My bad. Yeah. So, if you want to DM someone, this is me on my laptop, which I think is the best way. But you can also do it from your phone. Um. I mean, you can go to like direct messages, and then like find the name of the person. They're in alphabetical order. But you can also click this plus next to direct messages. And then like if I was writing a message to Reedy or something, I would like click on her name and then this would show me it and I'd say like hi. And then I would if you're reaching out to your culture partner, definitely provide more details like hi, I'm culture partner, I'm like XYZ from XYZ country. But yeah, that's kind of how it works. I think I also sent in one of the messages like a guide from Slack. Like there's lots of guides. If this is your first time using like Slack or Zoom or things like that, you can just look up like any questions you have and they have like support on how to do that. But if you need to, we can also definitely help you out with that. Um, yeah, and then I guess just to make sure everyone understands how like this works, these channels are just different areas of communication that you can share in. Um, and then again, like the direct messages are where you can connect individually with like Reedy or me or your culture partners. I believe you can also make like a group chat, but let me double check that that's true. So I was wanting to make a group chat because maybe I have like multiple people in my group. I would again click that plus sign next to direct message. That's also what DM stands for, is direct message. And then like I don't know, Spencer's not here. Okay, and then I would like add them, and then you can send messages to all like three of those people.